All right, what's up, guys? We're back. The End of the Bench podcast, episode 60. I am Pat Milano, filling in for our master, Scott Castellano, who cannot be here today. However, we do have a very special guest, friend of the podcast, moderator of Charging the Mound, Mr. Chris Perkowking. Chris, how you doing, bud?
How's it going, Pat? Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. Of course. We got a lot to discuss. A lot of New York-based stuff. Maybe not all of it good news. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to start it with my team, the now 1-13 New York Jets. And Chris, I don't remember the last time I've been so pissed at one of my teams have won a game. I was watching that game yesterday, and I was actively rooting for the Rams because I knew down the line the Jets were going to do something to mess up throwing away this number one draft pick, and they did it by a win against the Rams. So, Sean McVay, you're a genius, but God damn it, dude. If there was one game you needed to win outside of your Super Bowl, it was that one, and you really fucked us because the Trevor Lawrence stream, it's slowly dwindling away, and I'm hurt about this, man. I really thought that I hate have to actively root for my team to go 0-16, but like I said to Scott the last time we talked, it's almost as if like the team needed to go 0-16 for there to be some really dramatic change. I'm still praying that there is. I'm still very hopeful and optimistic, I should say, that there is. But I don't know, man. Like this one win could really just throw the future of the franchise in a complete whirlwind.
Yeah, well, I'll start by saying that, according to Mekhi Becton, you're not a real Jets fan then.
Okay, you know what? I saw that. And respect Mekhi, man. I love him. I love the pick.
Yeah, he's played really well.
Should have been a Pro Bowler. He got snubbed this year.
Yeah, but for him to say that any Jets fan who is rooting for them to lose out is not a real Jets fan, it essentially says that there are no real Jets fans in the world.
Right, exactly. You mean Mekhi?
Jets fan, yeah.
You gotta understand we are Jet fans. We're Jet fans so bad that we see your surrounding castmates and your quote unquote leader in Adam Gase, and we know that there's not going to be success. So the only way that we can move forward as a franchise is if we could have gotten that number one pick, get Trevor Lawrence, and hope that he's not going to become the next what if or what could have been. He's one of the best quarterback prospects we've seen in the last 20, 30 years. I think a lot of people have compared him to. The hype around him was Luck or Manning or something like that. So this was the year that the Jets needed to kind of just lose out, get Trevor Lawrence, and start to build a team around him. Obviously, the next step would have been to fire Gase. Now I'm afraid he's going to get a contract extension for this one win. But
I don't think there's any way that Adam Gase stays on.
I know, but
any conceivable way.
It's just so scary thinking about the possibility that he could. And I know a lot of Jet fans might be listening and be like, "There's no way." I'm like, it's the Jets. Like, I wouldn't be surprised.
It is scary that the GM and ownership are still listening to him. Like, after the Raiders game where he essentially was like, no, it's not me. It's great. It's the defensive coordinator. It's Greg Williams. He's got to go. He's the problem. And they're like, you got it, Adam. Greg, you're out of here.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's strange how long of a leash he seems to have.
It really is. I mean, I know him and Joe Douglas are pretty friendly. I think it was pretty much Gase that got Douglas the job as GM, which generally when you think about it, it's the GM is getting the coach the job. But I don't know, man. I'm just, this was the one game that, to be honest, I was looking back at the remaining schedule for the Jets. So it was this Rams game. Next week they got the Browns. Week after is the Patriots. I thought if a win was coming, it was going to be against the Patriots. Yeah. That's it. Now I'm worried that they could actually win 2 of these final 3 games, which definitely throws him out of the number one spot because I'd have to look at the Jags' remaining schedule, but I don't see them even coming close to another win. So this is really going to hurt the New York Jets and the Trevor Lawrence
earlier
sweepstakes.
Today, I can't remember what it is. Hold on. Yeah, Jags have the Bears, who are playing much better since putting Mitch Trubisky back in at starting quarterback, and then they've got the Colts week 17. So there's no chance they win week 17. I really don't see their chances at winning against the Bears this coming week.
Yeah. So I mean, it looks like the Jags are going to be taking that number 1 pick then.
Yeah.
God damn it. Now I just got to start thinking about who the next best bet is. I think
it's Justin Fields is probably the pick at number 2, assuming they finish with the 2nd overall pick.
Yeah, I saw that. I think he's probably going to be the best option. I have seen some Twitter folk, Jet Twitter and such, thinking that with Joe Douglas trying to revamp the offensive line, there are a couple of linemen available that he thinks could be best fit at 2. I don't know the exact draft class to really comment on it right now. Would I hate that idea? No, but then at that point, you're definitely committing that Sam Darnold is your quarterback for the future. And I don't know, every time I watch Sam, it's like, I want to give you hope, but I mean, it's not just the play calling. You two are making
bad. He's
making
bad.
He's making bad decisions. When he's good, it's like very flashes. Like you see a flash of what he could be, but the development, it just hasn't been there. And I don't know if we're ever going to see what could have been. We'll always see those flashes. We won't see the long term, what we expected, basically long-term expectations.
For him to flourish, I think it's going to have to be on a different team.
I think so
that's
too.
What it comes down to. Come draft night, they'll trade him for a 2nd or 3rd round pick. They'll pick their quarterback of the future at number 2, whether that's Justin Fields or Trey Lance or Zach Wilson or whoever they decide at number 2. But I think that's what it's going to be. But unfortunately, the difference between Trevor Lawrence and any of those guys is that Trevor Lawrence seems like a day 1 starter. And those guys look like they're going to need to sit for a year and learn, in which case the Jets are going to have to go out and get a veteran quarterback to teach whoever they draft.
Yeah. I mean, right now, I don't know his contract, but I mean, Flacco is the veteran quarterback on that.
Yeah,
on that
they
roster.
may keep Flacco. That's a guy who, a Super Bowl champion who maybe, I wouldn't be opposed to teaching a quarterback. But you also look at, maybe somebody like Phillip Rivers, although at this point in his career, I think he'd probably only go to a contender for a 1-year deal. Maybe a Nick Foles, maybe, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be an interesting end of the season, definitely, for the Jets.
Yeah.
The only thing I can say is let's hope that Trevor Lawrence dream stays alive. It's dwindling away, like I said, but, God bless that something good can come out of this Jets season.
Yeah. But it comes down to even when they win, they lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, I just want to talk really quick about Sean McVay's play calling at the end there, because the Jets couldn't stop the run for the entire game. No.
Cam Akers was running all over them.
McVay has done this so many times in the past where he outthinks himself. And like he knows he's the smartest coach in the league, and he's this wonderkind, and he makes these decisions where, like you just said, Cam Akers was running all over the field. Instead of continuing to run the ball, they start passing the ball, which the Jets secondary had stopped the pass pretty much the entire day. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, Goff was pretty much off his game from the start. Yeah. I mean, from every time I saw it, it just seemed like he was just making a bad decision or just a throw that he generally would make like any other week. It just happens to be against the Jets that his Mr. Hyde sense comes out, I guess the way to say it. But McVay, I feel like you said, he knows he's the smartest coach in the league. Maybe he tries to outmaneuver his own mindset, and it backfired on him completely, because this was definitely a game they needed to win. It puts them, I mean, a win would have put them even better into the playoff hunt. Yeah. But this loss hurts them, and I mean, now I've been seeing that maybe McVay is on his way out. I don't know what you think. I think it's maybe.
I think he's got a longer leash. I think he's, that Super Bowl run is still pretty fresh in their minds in LA. The thing is, I'm not the biggest fan of Goff. I don't think he's all that good. I don't think he's worth that contract he signed. I don't think he was worth that draft position. But that's my opinion. I just don't think he's a very good quarterback. And they build this offensive system around what should be an elite quarterback, and that's not who he is.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, I don't know. I don't have too much of an opinion on Goff. I know that he was highly touted. They thought he was going to be the next big thing. Again, he's another guy who's shown bits and pieces that he can be that Super Bowl winning quarterback. But I mean, who knows what the next step is going to be for him. But I agree with you. I think McVay should have a longer leash. He still is one of the more knowledgeable coaches in the league. I don't see there's any reason that the Rams have to look towards replacing him at this point.
Yeah.
But while we discuss an NFC team, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your team, the New York Giants, who in that great division that we call the NFC East are still in it. What do you think, man? I mean, do they have a chance is bringing it home and making the playoffs?
I really don't like the chances against Baltimore this Sunday, even though I think Baltimore is a little overrated. That's something I've talked to Scott about. I think they're a bit of an overrated football team, but I think they're better than the Giants regardless. And going into Baltimore is a different monster. I like them week 17 against Dallas. But overall, I don't think they're going to go 6-10 and win the division. I do think that the Washington football team pretty much has it, in their favor. I don't remember their remaining schedule, but it's much easier than the Giants. Let me see here.
Yeah, let's take a look. Why don't we?
Washington football team has Carolina, who is an awful football team. And then week 17 would probably be the Eagles in Philadelphia. So I really like Washington to go, win the next two games and win the division. I don't know. The Giants just kind of have their cards stacked against them. And, I think that's probably the best thing for the team rather than somehow winning the division and getting a pick in, around 20 instead of around 10. I think it's the best thing for him right now. It's tough. Obviously you lost Saquon, but the running game has been really good without him. So that's a whole other conversation. But part of the issue is that on offense, none of the wide receivers are really playmakers. Golden Tate is done. See that he's cooked. I think he's going to be he's going to be cut probably in the offseason. Sterling Shepard is good out of the slot, but not much else. Evan Engram drops every pass that comes to him. Darius Slayton, he's a good number 2, but when he goes up against a cornerback 1, he gets no separation and he can't get anything done because he's a number 2 wide receiver and not a number 1 wide receiver. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to have to end up drafting a wide receiver. If Jamar Chase from LSU is available when they pick, I think he's the guy to go with. There's also Devontae Williams, I believe is his name, the wide receiver from Alabama, who is very highly touted. That may be somebody they go with. Or maybe they go in free agency and sign somebody like Kenny Golladay to be their number 1 wide receiver. He's a big-bodied receiver, tall, quick. That's the kind of guy that they need in the offense.
Yeah, I mean, Golladay, I think, is very underrated in terms of his production and what he could do on the field. I've always liked him in Detroit. Him and Marvin Jones were very good. A good 1-2 for a guy like Stafford. I think seeing the Giants, they could get him. Absolutely. What are your thoughts on Daniel Jones? I mean, you a fan of his? You think that he can run this team long term? I mean,
so last season, I've said it on this podcast with Scott myself, I was really high on him after last season. He had the issues with the fumbles, but he cut it down towards the end of the year. He finished with 24 touchdown passes, added 4 or 5 rushing touchdowns. He had a great rookie season, all things considered. And now he has regressed considerably this year. He barely passes 200 yards passing in a game. He's got 8 touchdown passes to 9 interceptions. He's got a couple rushing touchdowns, but like a good quarterback doesn't have those numbers. He's been actively terrible this year. And that's the issue. I think you give him another year and see if he can pick it up. Maybe if you put a weapon around him, because the offensive line has been good. The offensive line has been much, much better than it was last year. Andrew Thomas has been really good. He's improved every single game he's played at left tackle. I've liked Matt Pert when he's been in at right tackle. I think they've been playing Cam Fleming a little too much there. But Nick Gates moved over to center, and he's been really good. Then you've got Shane Lemieux and Will Hernandez sort of flipping in and out at left guard, and Kevin Zeitler's been excellent at right guard this year. They've given the quarterback time to do stuff, but you see in Jones's progressions, he doesn't look at all of his targets. He usually looks at his first read, and if that's not available, he takes a sack and then fumbles the ball. He forces throws sometimes. There have been several times just in the last couple weeks where you see somebody streaking down the field unattended, and he's not even looking in their direction, and it's 6 points that they're leaving on the board. That's happened several times in the last couple of weeks that he's played, and it's kind of inexcusable. Not only for a second-year quarterback, but for a quarterback taken at number 6 overall. It's just inexcusable mistakes. He doesn't seem to have very good pocket awareness, and he doesn't seem to have a very high football IQ, which is something that Dave Gettleman praised him for, was his football IQ when he drafted him. Like I said, I liked him last year. I liked him going into this season, but there's not a lot to like right now about Daniel Jones. And I think, first off, I think Gettleman is going to be gone after this year. Mm-hmm. He's put together some good pieces in free agency. James Bradbury was obviously an excellent signing. He's been one of the best cornerbacks in football. Blake Martinez has like 1,000 tackles this year. He's been all over the field. Logan Ryan has been excellent. He's like the team leader on defense. But aside from and they did draft fairly well this year. They're getting good contributions from late round picks like Tate Crowder and Carter Coughlin. I mentioned Shane Lemieux and Matt Pert. They were both nice depth draft pieces. So he did do well this year, but like you look at the fact that his first round picks, by and large, over his time as the Giants GM, I believe 3 of 4 of them have been offensive picks, and they are the 31st ranked offense in the league. I don't think you can get away with that and get another shot after that. By and large, this is still a 5-win football team. They may be in mm-hmm. They may be in the hunt for the division, but this is still a 5-win football team. They have not, like, this would be, if they won 6 games, if they went 6-10 this year, that would be the best season of the Dave Gettleman era, which is inexcusable. He's got to go, and they've got to go with somebody else. Maybe a younger, more analytical mind, but somebody who's a better evaluator of talent.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Gettleman's definitely going to be out of there after this year. There's no question about it that the loss of Saquon Barkley contributed to the horrendous season that it's been. I feel like if he's in there, the way the NFC East has played out, I think the Giants could have definitely won more. Mm-hmm. And I think the loss of him for Daniel Jones is obviously contributing to how poor his play has been. Yeah. But one question I gotta ask is your thoughts on Joe Judge. Personally, one season, especially this season when you lost your best player, is definitely not enough to judge him, no pun intended, I guess, sure. on how good of a head coach he's been. I think he's been pretty solid given what he has.
Been really good. Yeah. I think he's been really good.
I think there's no reason to start to think that his job is on the line, that he's in the hot seat. I think you got to give him at least another year, especially when you get Saquon back in the lineup every day.
I think he may be the guy for them. I think he may be the head coach for the long run. I think they've found the right guy for the team. You read in the papers and everything, and in the media, all the players just praise him. They love the energy in the locker room. They love the accountability that he holds to the players. And you can see just on game day, they play for him. And they play hard for, this is a different team and a different, energy and atmosphere than under the McAdoo era or under the Pat Shurmur era. None of these teams played with any kind of fire for Pat Shurmur, but every single week they go out and you can tell that they're playing their ass off for Joe Judge because they buy into his system. I think that's what's most important is if a team believes in what the head coach is selling them, and it seems like the Giants do.
Yeah, I'm hoping they stick with him for the long run. I mean, even as a Jet fan, like I said, I'm always a fan of New York teams doing well. And we don't know how good it's going to be for the Jets over the next couple of years. So we got to at least make sure the Giants are somewhat of contenders. And this year is a year that they're close. But like you said, down the line, I don't think it's going to happen this year. Washington looks like they're going to be the team that takes that division this year.
Yeah. And like I said, it's really in their best interests for the future of the team to not win the division this year so that they can continue to build talent through the draft, maybe continue to get some free agents. But most importantly, this isn't a team that's going to be helped by a late draft pick. They need a top 10 pick. Yeah. And I was saying with Gettleman, obviously Jones is his guy. I think with a new GM in there, I think Jones really only has 1 year to prove that he can be the starting quarterback for the New York Giants going forward. And I do want to touch on something like you said, Barkley's absence has been big, but Wayne Gallman has been excellent.
He has. He really has.
If you look at his numbers in a full season, because he missed several games at the start. They signed Devontae Freeman, so he really didn't get to be the guy until like week 6. If he started every game keeping his yards per game, he'd be at over 1,000 yards already. He's been very, very good. I wouldn't be surprised if he does finish over 1,000 yards for the season. And I think the way that the offense is built and the way that the offensive line plays and creates holes, it really fits the running style of somebody like Wayne Gallman a little more than it has for somebody like Saquon Barkley, who doesn't like to hit the hole that's there. He likes to try to be evasive and go side.
He wants to make a move.
East-west. Yeah. But the way that this offense is built and the way that the line plays, it plays to a running back who just hits the holes, which is the type of running back that Wayne Gallman is. So that's why I said that's a conversation for another time. But and for the their salary cap going forward, a decision that they may have to make in the future if they want to sign Wayne Gallman for about 4 years at a much more affordable cap hit than to sign Saquon Barkley for a record contract for a running back and sort of handcuff them going forward in terms of cap space.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how they decide to maneuver going forward. I guess we'll see what the GM at the time decides to do. So let's move on. I mean, sometimes it's a little depressing talking about our teams being bad. So let's move on to a sport where we hope both of our teams are good. And this is the specialty. Our sport is baseball. And let's start with my New York Mets. I mean, it's been a few days now, about a week roughly, since they announced the official signing of catcher James McCann. I know a lot of fans were very adamant about getting JT Realmuto, but you got to understand that, maybe they didn't want to go 5, 6, 7 years on a contract for a catcher. It's understandable at his age. JT is without a doubt the best catcher in baseball, in my opinion, in terms of everything that he does at that position and how well he does it offensively. But James McCann has been one of the better catchers over the last several years, and you're getting him in a bargain, 4 years, $40 million. Just around where his market value was, he seems to be the kind of guy who pitchers want to work with. We've seen guys like Stroman already come out and say, McCann is a guy that I want to get to know. I think we're going to do great things with them. Yeah. And this contract gives them the flexibility to go out and spend a little bit more on the other needs that they have. My biggest thing is center field, and that's George Springer. Yeah. I know a lot of people are saying, it's not just Springer. Look at Jackie Bradley Jr. I'm like, yeah, Jackie Bradley Jr. would be a great number 2. But my issue with that is you're overloading that outfield with left-handed hitters. So I like a guy like Springer that you can plug in there at the top of that lineup, and he gives you that right-handed bat. He gives you the ability to play center at an elite level. He's a true center fielder, something the Mets have not had since arguably Beltran in terms of putting it together both offensive and defensively. We know that Lagares had a glove, couldn't really hit. Nimmo is a great outfielder, but he's a corner man. He can't really succeed in terms of defense in the center field. So they really need that right-handed bat. And they also need starting pitching. I mean, Trevor Bauer is still possibly in play, but they also have guys that can look behind him, a Jake Odorizzi type, Tanaka, Paxton, whoever is available. And I don't know. I trust Steve Cohen and the newly named Steve Cohen. Excuse me. I trust Steve Cohen. I trust Danny Alderson and the newly named GM Jared Porter, which we'll discuss a little bit more. But what do you think? How do you liking this offseason so far for the Mets?
Yeah, so I really like the signing for James McCann. I mentioned on the Charging the Mound Instagram, I believe that you could argue that James McCann has been the top 5 catcher the last 2 years. Since he was DFA'd or non-tendered rather by the Tigers after the 2018 season, he changed his swing. He changed his approach at the plate. He's always been a great defensive catcher and a really good pitch framer. And, he was the personal catcher for Lucas Giolito, obviously, the past 2 years. And Giolito has been excellent the past 2 years. But you look at it, his 2019 numbers, that was his breakout year. He was an all-star, 18 homers and 60 RBIs, 273 batting average, 328 on base, 460 slugging, good for a 108 OPS plus. And in this past season, he was even better. Obviously in a smaller sample size due to the pandemic, but in 31 games, he slashed 289, 360, 536 with a 144 OPS plus. Like I said, his approach at the plate has been much improved. He's been good over the last 2 years for a 5 WAR overall, which is great for a catcher, especially somebody who doesn't play 162 games. But to get him at the cap hit that they got him at, which is 10 million and change a year, I think it was 10, 15 a year.
Just north of 10 a year. Yeah, which is absolutely great in terms of the deal
for a starting catcher for the next 4 years. Yeah. And like you said, if you were to sign JT Realmuto, you might be paying him $25 million a year for the next 6 years. So that's for a 30-year-old catcher is not insignificant. Yes, James McCann is a year older. He's going to be 31 in June. So, I don't really mind the 4-year deal. I probably would have gone 3 if I was the Mets, but, I think they're probably hoping that there's going to be a DH, in the National League come 2025 when that deal will be in its last season, at which case you could probably, use him as a DH. But for right now, as a catcher that's going to help that pitching staff, which was, it's a position they've needed. Wilson Ramos was not the catcher that they thought they were signing when they signed him. They lost Travis d'Arnaud and he ended up blowing up with the Rays and Braves. It's really been a thorn in their side. And I think they got a really good catcher that's going to be all-star level for the next 4 years for them.
Yeah, I agree. I really love the McCann signing in terms of now you can still I know a lot of people were probably thinking like, well, you could have gotten Realmuto for the money that you were going to pay him and then still go after guys like Springer, Bauer and all that. You have Steve Cohen, he's a billionaire, but then you also have to remember that the luxury tax
going forward, you've got to sign Syndergaard next year. There are other players that are going to need contracts. At some point in the middle of that, you're going to need to sign Alonso to an extension in when those contracts are going to be albatrosses across your neck,
Yeah. So one thing I remember reading was that with the McCann signing, rather than Realmuto and everything that they have, arguably with those who are arbitration eligible, what they're anticipated to get. As of right now, the Mets have a payroll flexibility of about, I thought I saw it was around between $55 to $60 million additional they could spend without hitting the luxury tax. So you have $60 million that you can spend before you hit that tax number. And, Steve Cohen being, the money man that he is, even though he wants to throw the money towards the team, even as a first-year owner, you don't want to go over your luxury tax the first year. So it's understandable. So you save a little bit of money.
I'm sorry. And especially in a year where you don't know if you're going to have fans in there.
Exactly.
So you don't know if you're going to be losing money this year. That's the issue.
Yeah. So I mean, you get him on the cheap. I don't want to say necessarily cheap because it's not cheap. It's a good deal. But you get McCann over Real Muto. You save yourself about $60 million you have available still, and that gives you a flexibility to go ahead and sign a pitcher, give you an outfielder, touch up anything else that you may possibly need, and still stay under that threshold.
Totally.
So I love the signing for that reason specifically. And 4 years. McCann heading into his age 34, 35 season, whatever it may be. Not like a lot of people may not like the idea of a 34, 35-year-old catcher. Obviously we know how catchers regress and decline as time goes on. But they've also, in a sense, needed a guy to plug in there for a few years while they have a top catching prospect in Francisco Alvarez. Yeah. They think this kid's going to be the next big thing. The only problem is he's only going to be entering his age 18 season next year. So he's got some seasoning that's got to occur.
Right.
I would love to see him up sooner rather than later, but the kid has to play some real minor league ball before we can even consider that prospect.
Yeah.
So having McCann for 4 years,
he may be just coming up by the time the McCann contract is finishing. So,
and I think that's where they were, what they were thinking,
trying to build to. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You get Real Muto for 7 years. You don't want to end up having to block him for 2-3 years. I mean, I get the whole service time thing. I really hate it. I'm glad they did with what they did with Alonso, bringing him up when they needed, not worrying about it. You can't worry about what your team's going to look like 5 years from now. You got to worry about what a team's going to look like now and if they can help you win a championship now. That's the way I see it.
But I do think, you obviously you mentioned Springer and stuff. I do think they're going to end up getting Springer. It seems like the suitors for him right now, from everything we're hearing, is the Blue Jays and the Mets, that they're the 1-2 there. I think the Mets obviously have the payroll flexibility that they can put a bigger offer in for Springer. And I think he gives them a really good bat to put at the front of the lineup. He plays good defense in center field. He can play right field as well. It's just a really good fit for them, I believe. Rather than giving somebody like Jackie Bradley Jr. a 2-year deal, which is really just a Band-Aid. They need somebody who's going to be a long-term solution there. And I think that's George Springer. And in terms of the rotation, I do think Odorizzi's a really good fit.
As do I.
And he's going to be, he's a good pitcher. He's really good for any team. He had some crazy, he's never really been injured before. He had some crazy things this year with the COVID season. He got hit by a ball and a few other things. But his peripherals were still on track with the rest of his career, and some were even better than in his before in his career. I think a guy like him, who you can get on like a $12 million deal or $12 million a year, sign him to like a 2-year deal. He plugs in the middle of that rotation really well. And you can also go and get another bullpen arm. There are so many. There are Liam Hendricks, Sean Doolittle, Brad Hand. There's so many relievers available. And if it's any inclination of what the market is going to be, like Greg Holland just got $2.5 million. Like it, the Cleveland turned down Brad Hand for an $8 million option. It doesn't seem like the relievers are going to be getting all that much money. It seems like they're going to be pretty affordable. So it would probably be in the Mets' best interest to go get one of those really good relievers on an affordable deal.
Yeah, I mean, just in point of
to plug in with Trevor May, who they already got, who's another signing I really like.
Absolutely, and going off of Trevor May and Jake Odorizzi, former teammates in Minnesota, one thing they would have in common is that Jeremy Hefner was the bullpen coach with Minnesota for 2 of their very good years. So bringing them all back together, I think, is honestly a great fit. I think Hefner is going to be going forward. I think he's still going to be a great pitching coach. I'm excited to see what he can do with a full season under his belt.
Definitely.
So moving on to the guy who will be doing most of these future signings, as we hope, me being in the Met fan, Jared Porter, the newly named general manager of the New York Mets, coming over from the Arizona Diamondbacks, previously had years with the Red Sox and Cubs. Mind you, this guy also already has 4 World Series rings. I love this. I looked up the guy. It looks like he knows exactly what he's doing. He's very analytic heavy. He knows his player development. And from everything that I've read, every MLB exec that has commented on it, they said this guy, he's fairly young. I think he's like 40 years old.
He's 40,
yeah. I mean, it's the young guys keep coming up, making these GM spots. But everything that I've read is MLB execs love him. They think he's going to be a great GM. He's been waiting in the wings for some time now, and they think he's going to be nothing more than a successful GM who can definitely bring a championship to any team that was hired to him. Any team that hired him. I know the Mets were talking to a lot of guys. Billy Owens is the A's. I thought he was going to be it because he had the Alderson connection. So I really thought he was going to be it. But I looked at Porter Moore, and he looks like he knows what he's doing. So I'm excited to see what he can do.
Yeah. One of his skills seems to be in player evaluation. That's what Sandy Alderson has praised of his ability was his player evaluation. He really wants him to basically like sort of act as like a scout and help help rebuild this farm system that the Mets have depleted over the Brodie Van Wagenen regime.
That hurts.
Now,
you got to bring that up. That hurts, man.
Yeah,
oh God, that farm is. At one point, they were considered one of the top farm systems. When they had all these guys, and like you said, Van Wagenen pretty much just said, "No more farm. Let's win now." But the moves that he made to win now weren't necessarily.
Were not win now moves. I don't see what a 34-year-old Robinson Cano does for you.
Yeah. But at the time, I will say at the time that trade, I was like, all right, maybe that'll work because maybe we could put together the pieces to win now because I thought the Diaz was going to be the big piece there. Obviously, we see what happened there. So
yeah,
I also didn't want to give up Kelenic for the world in that deal. That right there turned me off.
And now he's the star of their farm system. And
I think
the star of the Mariners for years to come. It seems.
I think we can see him in 2021. I think we'll see Kelenic in 2021.
I absolutely think so. But one of the huge things that he has going for him, we said that he was with the Red Sox and with the Cubs, is Theo Epstein has praised him for years. Said this guy's going to be a GM immediately. He is praised his ability. He's a huge advocate for him. And I think one of the things that the Mets are trying to do, and this has been rumored, but who knows, the Mets, Alderson still says that he wants a president of baseball ops. Obviously, he brought in Porter to be the GM. A lot of people think that maybe next year, because Theo Epstein wants to take a year off, that next year they bring in Theo Epstein to be the president of baseball operations and they work together again and build the Mets into a championship team.
I would love that.
I think that's fair. I think there's a decent possibility of that happening. To be
I would absolutely love that, having Theo Epstein a part of the New York Mets organization. I can only dream of what he would help in terms of on the field talent and everything like that. Now, this may have been a joke, but I kind of saw it. I'm like, oh my God, can you imagine? Someone on Twitter, and a lot of people liked it that I saw. This is a while ago, though. This is when Epstein just said he was going to take the year off, everything like that. Imagine if once Manfred has stepped down, whatever that may, the owners decide to vote him out or whatever the case would be. Imagine if a guy like Theo Epstein stepped in and became commissioner of Major League Baseball. As a fan, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Let him decide what to do on the field. I think Manfred's strength obviously isn't, fan engagement, marketing, everything like that. It's kind of like cutting.
I don't think anybody would argue that.
Yeah, it's cutting basically everything that you can out of baseball. But imagine putting a guy like Epstein in charge of all that stuff. That would be absolutely insane. And just thinking about it is like, well, to be fair, just thinking about Manfred no longer being the commissioner is something that's, already making me happy. It makes me smile. It makes me smile. But then I had to bring myself back down to reality and think, oh God, that's not happening. But I don't know, I saw it and I was like, ooh, that's interesting. I wonder if that could ever actually occur.
Very much so. But yeah, I mean, this was the kind of guy that they needed to go get for the job rather than somebody like Brodie Van Wagenen who had no experience in a front office before. And it was a puzzling signing, a puzzling hire then. It's a puzzling hire now.
Should have been Heimblum.
Yeah, absolutely. It should have been
Heimblum.
Yeah.
He's going to turn the Red Sox around. I see it.
I think I said to you and Scott when it happened, I believe we did an episode when it happened, and I said Heimblum is the hire. But they went with Brodie and whatever. But
that's the Wilfons for you.
Oh, totally.
Let's not want to even get into that.
This is the kind of hire they should have made then. I'm glad that Steve Cohen and Sandy Alderson kind of righted that wrong and made that move now. because by all accounts, everything he's done in terms of player evaluation, and Ben Cherington, who's now the Pirates GM, was the Red Sox GM when he was in the Boston organization, has said that he was kind of the voice that made several big trades happen for them that led to championships. Same with Theo Epstein with the Cubs, said he was the guy who brought Mike Montgomery in and said, this is the guy who's gonna solidify the bullpen, and that's what really ended up happening and helped them win the World Series. Like he's a really good player evaluator and talent evaluator. So it's the kind of guy that the Mets have needed for a very long time.
Yeah, I definitely trust it. I think it's a great hire. It's definitely not a Wilpon hire, which makes it even better. And you can kind of see it when Sandy talks. Like he knows that he has free reign of this team. He's going to hire who he needs to and make sure he puts the right people in place without any ownership meddling. Jeff Wilpon.
Yeah, maybe.
So I'm excited for that.
This may just be me, but when he was the GM, Sandy was. It always seemed like he was sort of walking on eggshells.
Oh, absolutely.
That he didn't have full control or full say in what he was going to do. But it seems like Steve Cohen has given him free rein and said, hey, you're the baseball guy. I want you to make these decisions.
That's exactly what Cohen has said. He basically said, I'm going to bring in the guys who know this stuff. I'm a fan of the game. I'm going to bring in the guys who, are students of the game, who are masters of the game to put together a team. And I'm simply just going to be the guy signing the checks. Exactly. So I am happy with this group.
That's what works in an owner, is somebody who doesn't, claim to be an expert or try to dip their fingers into too many different areas.
Yeah. So speaking of owners and money and checkbooks, I'm going to have to transition this to the Bronx side. And I got to say, what is going on? Well, I don't understand where Hal Steinbrenner and company are saying they don't have the money DJ LeMahieu is a must. I know he's been linked to the Mets. I just saw this before. He's been linked to the Mets, the Blue Jays. As much as I would love him, the Mets don't have a need for him. The Yankees do. Right. So what is keeping the Yankees from re-signing this guy? I mean, I don't understand why it's taking so long. It seems like he wants to be in New York. He wants to be with the Yanks. Just close this deal.
Yeah, I mean, he told them that he would take a hometown discount, but not for the deal that they're trying to get him at, which I believe is 4 for $70, if I remember correctly.
I know they said they were like $25 million apart, but
yeah.
You got to sign this guy. I mean, I understand that you're worried about, Judge and Glaber when the time comes and everything like that. But I mean, you kind of, hamstring yourself with the taking the Stanton contract. I get that. But LeMahieu is a guy who is literally an MVP caliber player. He's literally the reason the Yankees were as good as they were last year.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
And you're going to just all of a sudden throw that away. I mean, come on now.
You got him for $12 million a year. You signed him on a below market deal already, and he gave you maybe 3 times, what the production for that contract should have been. He, like you said, he's been an MVP candidate 2 years in a row now. Finished top 3 this year, was top 5 last year. You could absolutely argue over the last 2 years that he has been the most valuable player in the American League. When you watch the Yankees, he is the heart and soul of the team. When he's in the lineup, they play better. I want to look up really quick what his numbers were, or what the Yankees did when he was out for that extended stretch in the summer this year, because I believe that's when they took their big they had the big slide.
Now, the only thing that I can think of as to why they don't want to re-sign him is maybe they want to save some money going forward to next year free agent class. Maybe a guy like I've seen ideas that Glaber is not your shortstop going forward. You want to move him back to second base. Trevor Story is a free agent after this year. Maybe the Yankees try and go after him. I'd understand that, but if that's not what the Yanks and Steinbrenner, Cashman are thinking, then you got to go ahead and get your guy in LeMahieu now. I mean, if you're not guaranteed yourself that Story is even going to be an option next year, then I mean,
I think it would be Lindor that they're looking at. I think it would be Lindor that they're looking at.
He is still available. I mean, I don't know what Cleveland is necessarily willing to take for him. I mean, what are you willing to give up for a Lindor? I mean, they're going to ask for a guy like Davy Garcia, and I don't know if the Yanks want to do that because they really don't have much in terms of starting pitching right now anyways. I wouldn't want to give him up. I mean, yeah, you're getting Lindor, but I don't know. It would be an interesting package what the Yankees would have to throw together to get a guy like Lindor.
Yeah. Well, it would have to include Clint Frazier, which is somebody that at this point I don't want to part with anymore. You know, like he's earned his spot in the lineup. He was excellent this past season. He's earned the right to be the starting left fielder for the New York Yankees.
I'm with you there. Yeah. I'm a Clint fan. I'm glad to see he did well.
Yeah, I'm a huge Clint fan. I've been a proponent of his since they traded for him.
Yeah, ginger power, man. I mean,
yeah, I do have the numbers for LeMahieu. The Yankees were 30-20 with him in the lineup, and 2-7 with him out of the lineup.
I mean, you got to resign the kid. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
he's like you said, the heart and soul of that team. You know, it seems like you have an infield of Voit, DJ, Glaber, and Gio. I think that's a very good infield, and that's one that long term can be, you know, one of the better ones in the AL East. So
totally. And you know, obviously you see with LeMahieu is like, oh well, he's 31 years old, so we don't want to give him a very long-term contract. I don't see what the problem is with a 4-year, $100 million contract for DJ LeMahieu. Sign him until he's 35 years old. He wants 5 for 125. If you give him 4 for 100 and an option, he would take it.
Is he a Boris client? If I'm correct, he is.
Not a Boris client.
He's not.
No,
okay. I thought he was.
I have no idea who his agent is. It's not Boris. I know that for sure. But he and his agent are playing this perfectly because they keep saying, like, oh, you know, I want to play for the Yankees. That's who I want to play for. That's the only team I want to play for. And so every time it comes out that the Yankees are playing cheap, it kind of angers the fan base a little bit of like, why won't you just sign this guy? He wants to play for you. He wants to stay here. And it makes him look great. And he keeps saying like, hey, you know, I wanted to play for him, you know, but you know, I got this offer that I couldn't turn down. They weren't giving me this money, you know, like this is, you know, realistically, like I said, LeMahieu's 31 years old. This is his last shot at a big deal.
Absolutely.
He kind of bet on himself, you know, when he signed 2 years ago to the Yankees on a 2-year, $24 million
and it worked.
Deal. Absolutely.
So the man is
now he's trying to get paid.
He's going to get paid.
He's trying to get paid now.
I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to get the deal that he's looking for.
Absolutely.
Or at least
I think so
in the ballpark.
I don't know what team it's going to be with, but
I mean, I just don't see how the Yankees can't be the team that's doing it. I mean,
well, the issue is the Steinbrenners claim. Well, the Steinbrenners only own the Yankees. A lot of owners own different entities in you know in business, but the Steinbrenners' only piece of business is the New York Yankees. So in a season where they had no concession sales, they had no ticket sales, nothing.
Obviously hurts them.
They lost a significant amount of money that they are claiming is you know, stopping them from making any big deals. I'm not asking for Trevor Bauer, not asking for George Springer, anybody like that. I'm asking for them to re-sign the guy who has been the best player on the team the last 2 years. And then you go ahead and that he's been anywhere close to the World Series.
Then you go ahead and let your analytic department do what they got to do to help win. And clearly we know that obviously works because we've seen it so many times over the last 10 years, these heavy analytic teams just having one or two big boppers, big contracts, and still go ahead and winning.
Yeah.
So we know that it's possible. The Yankees just have to.
Yeah. The Yankees are a better team with DJ LeMahieu in the lineup rather than Marcus Semien or Andrelton Simmons, which seem to be the other options. I don't think a reunion with Didi Gregorius is realistic, but you know, DJ has to be the guy that they sign. If there's one move they make, they need to put all their cards in, you know, and go and lock up DJ LeMahieu, because like I said ad nauseum here, that he has been the heart and soul of the team. He has been, you know, he's the guy for the.
I agree with you. 100%. I think I as a Met fan, obviously, I'm not going to say I hope DJ is in the Bronx, but as a baseball fan and just thinking logically, DJ LeMahieu and the New York Yankees is a match made in heaven. Hopefully the two sides can come together. So let's close this by a topic that kind of came as a shock to many. I personally saw it coming at some point.
Likewise.
But the Cleveland Indians have announced that they will be renaming the team and dropping the Indians name after the 2021 season.
Which doesn't make any sense that they announced it now.
It doesn't. It's like we're just making a change, but we're not making a change.
If you're like, well, obviously the name is terrible, but we're in no rush to do this.
Yeah. I wouldn't have announced it until you say you were going to drop the name like right after the season or whatever.
Yeah, and be like, hey, after this coming season, hey, we're not going to be the Indians anymore. We're going to be whatever.
X. Yeah. I know a lot of people are pissed. The whole why are you so offended snowflake thing. It is what it is. I'm not so invested in the name the Indians. It is the name that we knew grow up knowing and seeing Cleveland Indians. That's what we saw. Major League obviously had an impact on guys like us. We grew up watching that movie, so we see the Indians, you see the tribe, Chief Wahoo, everything like that. Am I butthurt necessarily that the Indians are changing their name? No, absolutely not. Because I also do like the idea of a rebranding, bringing in a new name, help try and bring in some new fans and everything like that. So Cleveland Indians, thank you for a great name. The tribe, you gave us Major League, Wild Thing, Ricky Vaughn, everything like that. I hope that movie doesn't, suffer because of a name change, because that is just absolutely a classic in the minds of baseball fans. But I'm interested to see what the city of Cleveland decides to go with. I've seen some very good possible new names. And I'm going to ask you, what is a name that comes to the top of your mind in terms of the new Cleveland baseball club name? What are you thinking?
Well, the rumor continues to be the Cleveland Spiders, which was the name that was there in the 1890s and early 1900s. So there's the history behind that name. I like it. I've talked to Scott. Scott hates it. I think it's a great name. I like it. The other option seems to be the Rockers because of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And I've seen that.
I don't think they're going to do that when they already have the Rockies in the league. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're going to have the Rockies and the Rockers.
I agree there.
But I think it'll end up being the Spiders. Personally, I've seen people say that they should be called the Cleveland Oranges and wear brown helmets, as opposed to the Cleveland Browns who wear orange helmets.
That's just stupid. Oh my god.
But I do want to say something. There's been a lot of people who are like, well, why is this an offensive name? When did this become offensive? Well, I mean, Native American groups have been protesting the name for decades at this point. Mm-hmm. I pulled up a picture that's not very hard to find. There are many like it, of a fan wearing red face paint and a headdress. It's not
hard to see, but I'm sure we've all seen it. Yeah. I mean,
red face paint and a headdress antagonizing a Native American man outside of the ballpark. Native Americans are a historically disenfranchised group of people, and it's kind of weird when you think about it that they're the only, race of people who have sports teams named after them. Why are Native Americans made as mascots? You had the Redskins, which is a racial, it's a slur. The Indians, they're not Indians, they're Native Americans, and they had a stereotypical offensive drawing as the logo for years and years and years. You've got the Atlanta Braves, the Chicago Blackhawks. The Blackhawks is different because it's after a tribe, and not like, and it's, it doesn't seem to be as
I personally haven't
it doesn't seem to be as different way between the Indians and like Redskins was.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I haven't seen too much of a stance against Braves, Blackhawks, and Chiefs. I haven't seen it too much.
Some people have said, the Chiefs is the other one. Seminoles, it's just bizarre to me that there's you don't have the Whites as the team name, but you've had Redskins and India. It's just bizarre that why are you naming team names after groups of people that exist in the world? They're not mascots. They're people. It's just strange to me that they're the only, like I said, they're the only race that has that becomes characterized like that.
Yeah, and I completely get what you're saying. to the people who are upset about this, I mean, think of it as an idea and a new way to, like I said, rebrand the Cleveland baseball town, and hopefully bring in a new group of fans. You get an exciting new team name, exciting new logo, jerseys, everything like that. I mean, even as a Met fan, when Miami decided to rebrand with their new logos and everything like that, both times, I was excited. I was like, that looks really good. I'm excited to see that. Yeah. It's just something I think as a fan of just seeing, I personally, I was always like, I love jersey guys. I'm a logo guy. I love seeing all these things. I'm really excited to see what Cleveland decides to do. And I really hope it's the Spiders. I don't know why. I've
like
had that
the Spiders
connection
a lot. Yeah,
I think it's great. I've seen fan concept jerseys that look absolutely insane. You keep the same color scheme. You just change the logo around, add a spider to it. You can do so many different things with it. I think it looks great. Rockers, like you said, I like the idea of wanting to build it around the Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but Rockies.
I don't think that they would go with. I don't think they would go with it. I'm trying to think of others that I've seen.
One more I did see was the Cleveland Guardians.
That's right. I saw that
there are
as well. Yeah.
the Guardian statues all around the city.
Yeah.
And actually leading up right to Progressive Field. That apparently has been a rich history to the city of Cleveland. I could see that.
I think Guardians, though, is very like a Arena League football team. You know?
Yo, New York Guardians are coming back in the XFL, and I'm pumped for it. Thank you, Rock. The Rock is Dwayne Johnson bringing it back. I love him for that.
I don't love Guardians as a Major League Baseball team name. I like Spiders the best.
Spiders.
I don't know.
Spiders at the end of the day. I feel like you could do so much with it in terms of the logo, and I'm excited to see what they do with that. I mean, think about all the Marvel nights that they could probably host. You know. Yeah. Spider-Man night, like that would be cool. Like think about that. You got Spider-Man's running around the stadium, like that's what I'm talking about in terms of marketing. Like that's what's going to bring kids in. You know what I mean? Like I think
it's a little
name.
hokey. It's like that kind of thing is a little hokey, but it brings in fans for like those theme nights.
I've got some other buddies who I've said that, and they're like, it's like a minor league name. I'm like, dude, minor league baseball has some of the coolest names I've ever heard in my life. Okay. You have the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, Binghamton Rumble Ponies, the Fort Myers Mighty Muscles. I mean, some of these names are freaking New Orleans Baby Cakes. Like some of these names are so cool. I would love to be a fan of a major league team with a name like that. Yes, that's awesome. Why would people hate that? That's such a great name. Oh, I'd love to see more of that at the major league level. If we ever expand and they decide not to bring back the Expos, just give me a name like that.
There's the
my God.
Riders. What other great team? There are a lot of great.
You know what?
While we have 51s.
Yeah. They upgraded. I think they're. What are they now? Are they just the Aviators now? I forget. I'm going to look up some of the cool names and fans who are listening to this understand that this is what guys like me and Chris like to do. We like seeing these different names, and some of it's just really funny. The Pensacola Blue Wahoos. That is a fish name. I know Chief Wahoo is gone, but Wahoos was a fish.
The Richmond Flying Squirrels.
A great name. I mean, what else we got
Toledo
here?
Mud Hens.
We got a couple of the Everett Aqua Sox. Like some of these are really cool, dumb, but they make you laugh, and they adhere to kids and like a family friendly thing. And it would just be Hartford Yard Goats,
Lansing Lugnuts.
I mean, we could go on and on about some of these, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I think a rebranding is something that would be great for Cleveland. I hope it's the Spiders. I think they can do a lot with that.
There's one I'm trying to find. It's I think there are Angels affiliate. Yeah, the Rocket City Trash Pandas.
I'm going to stop it there because that wins. Like, come on. I would love to see, like, can you imagine, like, Cleveland Trash Pandas? I'm like, I might have a new favorite team. I don't know.
I do. I gotta say, I do like the jokes that were on like Reddit and Twitter and stuff when it was announced Cleveland Indians changing their name. People were like, "Yeah, it's time for a change." Ohio Indians.
I've seen like Cleveland Redskins.
Yes,
so it's like, oh, there you go.
That's really good.
So I mean, I think excuse me. I think we can end it there. I don't know about you. I had a great time recording this. You know, we absolutely missed Scott. Unfortunately, he couldn't have been here today. Decided to leave me the responsibility of taking care of everything. I like to think I did a pretty good job. Scott, I take after you. I hope I made you proud with this episode, buddy. But Chris, thank you again for joining us. Fans, make sure to follow Chris at Charging the Mound. Also, be sure to follow us at the _ end of the bench on Instagram. Twitter is the EOTB. Chris, thank you again. Any last words before we head out?
No, man. Well, first I want to say you did a great job filling in for Scott.
I appreciate that.
I thank you for having me on. I always enjoy coming on and talking football and baseball with you guys.
I love it too, man. Yeah, first of all, I'd say happy holidays to you and
Likewise.
Maria and your family. Happy holidays to our listeners. And I think we'll see everybody again in the new year. Hopefully we get some good news with our sports. And let's hope 2021 starts off much better than 2020 has been. So, Chris, thank you again. Take care, bud.
See ya.